My cousin Jake's voice cracked like a cheap radio when he said, Lila, we're family, you have to help me. I nearly choked on my coffee, the mug burning my palms as his words sank in. The man I'd known since we were kids chasing fireflies was sitting across my kitchen table, confessing he'd already dipped into my emergency fund $10,000 I'd scraped together over years of waitressing doubles to save his failing bar. It was a Tuesday evening, the kind where the air feels too heavy, like the world knows something bad's coming. Jake had shown up unannounced, his usual cocky grin replaced by a nervous twitch. He was family, sure, but not the kind you trust with your car keys, let alone your life savings. Growing up, Jake was the cousin who'd borrow your bike and return it with a bent wheel, always with a shrug and a, my bad. But this was a gut punch. I'd hidden that money in a separate account, told no one except my mom and Jake during a late-night family barbecue when I was tipsy on cheap wine. I thought I could trust him. Now, here he was, saying he'd hacked into my account because family helps family. I stared at him, my heart hammering. Jake, that's my safety net, my future. My voice shook, but he didn't flinch. He leaned closer, his eyes bloodshot, like he hadn't slept in days. Lila, my bar's going under. I've got debts, bad ones. You don't get it. These guys don't mess around. His voice dropped to a whisper, like he was scared the walls were listening. I didn't have a choice. Didn't have a choice, I wanted to scream. That money was my lifeline, my escape plan from this dead-end town, from waitressing at a diner where the tips barely covered rent. I dreamed of opening a small bakery. Nothing fancy, just a place where I could knead dough and forget the world. Now, Jake had taken that dream and gambled it on his failing dive bar, a place that reeked of stale beer and bad decisions. I stood up, pacing the tiny kitchen, my sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. How much did you take? I asked, dreading the answer. He rubbed the back of his neck, avoiding my eyes. All of it, he mumbled. But I'll pay you back. Lila, I swear, the bar's gonna turn around. I just need a little time. Time, the word felt like a slap. I'd given up time, years of it, saving every penny, skipping vacations, eating ramen to stash away that $10,000, and Jake thought he could just promise it back. I sank into the chair, my anger dissolving into something heavier: betrayal. He wasn't just my cousin, he was the kid who'd shared his Halloween candy when I dropped mine. The guy who'd driven me to the hospital when I broke my arm at 16. How did we get here? Jake, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. How could you do this? He looked at me, and for a second, I saw the old Jake, the one who'd cry when his dog got sick, the one who'd always had my back. But then his face hardened. You don't know what it's like. Lila, I've got people breathing down my neck. You've got no one to answer to but yourself. You'll be fine. Fine. The word echoed in my head as I stared at the cracked photo frame on my shelf. A picture of us at a family picnic years ago. All smiles and sunburns. I wanted to throw it at him. Instead, I asked, who are these people? What kind of trouble are you in? He hesitated, then spilled it: loan sharks, shady deals, a bar that hadn't turned a profit in months. He'd borrowed money from the wrong kind of guys, and now they were circling. My $10,000 was already gone, paid to keep them off his back for another month. I felt sick. Part of me wanted to call the cops. But what good would that do? Jake wasn't some master criminal. He was just desperate and dumb. And family. That word kept tugging at me, like a hook caught in my chest. My mom's voice rang in my head. Family sticks together. Lila, no matter what. But where was the line? Did family mean letting someone destroy your dreams because they destroyed their own? Over the next week, I barely slept. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying Jake's words. I thought about confronting him again, demanding he sell the bar, his car, anything to pay me back. But every time I saw him, he looked worse, pale, jumpy, like a man running from ghosts. I started digging into his mess, against my better judgment. I visited his bar, a grimy hole in the wall called the Rusty Anchor. The place was half empty, the jukebox broken, the bartender barely awake. I found receipts in the back office, scribbled notes about payments to names I didn't recognize. Jake wasn't lying about the debts, but he wasn't telling the whole truth either. One night, I followed him after he left the bar. I don't know why, maybe I needed proof he wasn't just playing me. He drove to a warehouse on the edge of town, a place that looked like it hadn't seen a legit business in years. Two guys in leather jackets met him outside, their voices low but sharp. I couldn't hear much, but I caught Jake's voice, pleading, and the glint of something metal in one guy's hand. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just about money anymore. Jake was in deep, and now, so was I. Back home, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the empty bank account on my laptop screen. I felt like I was drowning, but then I thought about Jake, his fear, his stupid choices, his belief that I'd just roll over because we're family. I wasn't that person, not anymore. I started making calls, reaching out to old friends, even my boss at the diner. I needed a plan, not just to get my money back, but to pull Jake out of this hole without sinking myself. The next day, I sat Jake down again. This time, I was ready. "You're selling the bar," I said, my voice steady, "and you're coming clean to Mom and Uncle Ray about everything." His face went white, but I kept going. "I'm not letting you drag me down with you, but I'm also not letting you get hurt. We're family, Jake, but that doesn't mean you get a free pass." He argued, begged, even cried, but I held firm. I'd found a buyer for the bar, a friend of a friend who'd been eyeing the property. It wouldn't cover all his debts, but it was a start. I also contacted a lawyer, someone my boss knew, who agreed to help Jake negotiate with his creditors. It wasn't perfect, and it didn't get my $10,000 back, but it was something. Weeks turned into months. Jake sold the bar, moved in with his dad, and started working odd jobs to pay off what he could. He apologized more times than I could count, but trust is a hard thing to rebuild. I started saving again, a little at a time, picking up extra shifts and even selling some old furniture. The dream of my bakery felt farther away, but not gone. I learned to lock my accounts tighter than a vault, and I learned something else. Family isn't a blank check. It's love, sure, but it's also boundaries, accountability, and sometimes tough choices. One evening, Jake showed up at my door with a small envelope. Inside was $500, his first repayment. "It's not much," he said, his voice low, "but it's a start." I looked at him, seeing the kid from that old picnic photo, and I nodded. "It's a start," I echoed. We sat on my porch, watching the sunset, not saying much. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope, not just for my money, but for us. What do you think? Was I right to push Jake to face his mistakes? Or should I have just let it go for the sake of family? Share your thoughts, I want to hear them. End.